Okay, I'd like to call the Property and Rec meeting for August and call the meeting to order. Was the meeting properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Okay, public participation, we'll take that as it comes up. Roll call, let it show that all members are present. And I'm just going to remind everybody right now that anybody that speaks today, please use your mic. Otherwise, Lyanna's going to slap my fingers.
Oh, Rich just said it.
Okay, approved minutes of July 10th. Oops, I'm sorry. Agenda approval. Motion made by Rocky, seconded by Mike. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, to approve the minutes from July 10th. Does anybody have any corrections? Find anything wrong? I've been led to believe that we do not have to have a motion to approve minutes. All we have to do is, unless somebody has some changes, they're passed. So minutes are approved. Correspondence. We have a person here that would like to speak.
Is that me? Am I
That's
up?
you.
Okay.
You're under correspondence.
Awesome. Okay.
This map that I gave everybody is for a piece of property that the county owns that this gentleman would like to buy. We can't act on it this month. It's only under correspondence. We will put it on next month's agenda. But we can hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I would also I'd just like to tell you guys a little bit about myself. I've been a public servant for the last 23 years in various leadership roles. I've worked for 5 different municipalities. In my previous role, I was a director of public works. What I've noticed here is I can't ignore the community here is the best I've ever seen. And it's not even close. If I would have known this community was this great, I would have applied for that job as director of public works when that was open here. This community's been supporting me. And I listen to them when they speak. So my intention is to purchase that property. I know it's only 0.27 acres, but I know I can do a lot with that property. My intention is to put a playground set there. I'm going to use my public works connections to get a slightly used playground set. And I'm going to put a parking lot there. My intention is to put that playground set there for kids that their parents can't afford to fish on my property. So I think it would be awesome. I think it would be beautiful too, because you could be on that playground set and you could look across and see that lake. So my intention is to give back to this community because they supported me, and I feel deep obligation to do it. Please forgive me. I'm just a little heartwarmed by the way that I've been treated.
How many parking spaces do you think you can get over there?
Well, I measured it. And being a former director of public works, I managed parks, obviously. With that property there, I can get pretty creative.
Do you happen to know what that vent pipe that sticks up out of the ground on there is for?
I know exactly what it is. It's a septic.
So there's a septic tank in there.
That's my understanding. I went over there and I pulled the cap on that, and it looks to me like a septic.
Okay.
And we can get pretty creative too, because I could do porta potties over there for the single parents or the parents that can't afford to catch the trout on my property.
All right. What'd you say your name was?
Jeremiah Conley.
Jeremiah. Anybody have any questions for Jeremiah?
I would be happy to answer anything.
Mike here.
Josh, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Question, this is going to be open to the public?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, that's
Cool.
my intention. I
All
mean, I feel deep obligation to give back to this community. You know, even when we had that power outage, you know, when a fish farmer has a power outage, it's a problem. And it seemed like everyone cared about me, and they came there, they asked if I was okay. And I had generators going. I had 3 generators going. My intention is pure. I want to give back to this community.
Oh, it's good to hear. I think your
He-
intentions are good. so
He
thank you.
has a public fishing there, trout ponds aren't, I believe they're trout.
That is correct.
Plus he has a tavern there.
That is also correct.
Okay, yeah.
Bill?
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So you would like to use this for parking for your customers?
Yes, and
Okay.
for the playground.
Where do they park now?
Right now they pulled down my driveway there. It's tight, obviously, but we make it work. I mean, people are smarter than you give them credit for. I think a lot of times, I mean, would they could jam in there. I mean, it's a non-issue. And I also know that they are parking across the street where my mailbox is at, and that is a county right of way. And I don't know if I'm gonna get myself in trouble by customers just deciding wherever they want to park, and I can control it. I've done a very good job of it so far, but I'm not gonna be able to control everybody all the time, So my intention is to put a parking lot there for my customers and then for that playground set as well. Cause when you think about it, parents take their kids to, they take them to parks during the day. And people go to taverns at night. So it's not gonna interfere with anything at all. It's gonna be a good thing, and it's gonna be beautiful when you're playing on a playground set and you're looking across Easton Lake.
My next question, Mr. Chair, is where do people park that want to use the lake?
They park right by my mailbox all the time.
But they could use this spot.
There. I don't think there is actually a public launch site to that lake, is there? Anybody
There
know?
is, it's, if you.
Is
move-
there-
if you
Let's
move that
like,
map out-
let's listen to what Darren says. He knows. Or Doug, I mean.
Yeah, if you guys recall last year, the committee, just to the, I guess, east or northeast of this, the township has a launch. And it used to be a county launch, and across the street, there was a parking area. And we deeded that parking area to the township
Yep.
last year. So and the stipulation is they must keep that as a public boat launch, so there is a public access on the lake. And as far as this property particularly, I don't know the full history, but I do believe that there was a gas station there. And there was a toxic, if you want to call it a cleanup area. So the tops cannot be disturbed. You can't go grubbing around on this property. You can't dig into it, is my understanding.
Oh, boy. Well, there's always ways to get in around stuff like that, always.
That explains why there's a septic tank there. There used to be a gas station.
Who knows, that could be a fuel
don't-
tank or something.
Mr. Chair, if I can, I don't believe it's a septic tank. I think it was a monitoring well.
Okay,
That's even better.
I saw the pipe sticking up.
I mean, I've got equipment, I've been in the water and wastewater treatment industry for the last 23 years. I could tell you if it's a monitoring well, I can jam something down there. I mean, they have devices that beep when it hits water. I mean,
Jenny?
Yeah, that was a DNR cleanup. We did probably like less than 10 years ago. And you would want to, if you're really looking at that, you'd want to work with the DNR and see what the prognosis is at this point. I know after they clean up, there's so many years that you have to monitor and do, and they have their own rules and regulations for that.
and I'll be honest, that doesn't scare me at all.
Okay. Well, Doug, don't you guys keep in contact pretty much with the DNR? Would you find out anything about that property before next month? Or get me a phone number and I'll certainly contact him. I can't remember that guy's name.
I mean, I believe probably like planning and zoning would be a better outlet to try
Okay.
to follow that up on.
Okay, I'll run it by Dusty.
Just, by law, I do have to tell you that I have a real estate license. I don't want to be involved in the sale at all whatsoever. It's a conflict of interest, but I have to by law tell you that I am a licensed real estate agent.
Jenny?
Corporation Counsel may have all that documentation because I think Ken at the time was the one that was dealing with the DNR on our behalf.
Just a clarification, Doug, did you say that there's a parking space on the map? Or is it not a parking space? So what my question was, if somebody wants to go use the lake, do they have a place to park?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you follow this map to the east along that north shoreline, there is a boat launch in there. Let's pull it down a little bit. Maybe you went too far already. Scroll back to the left.
Confusing because that picture was made when the lake was dry.
I guess a little farther to the east.
There's also something I want to mention if I don't, if you don't mind, that no one's maintaining that property anyway.
No. This idea of a public access bill is for this property is immaterial because this property does not border the lake.
It does not what?
Well, right, but it is obviously very close.
It's close, but there's a property in between.
Right.
This property does not have lake frontage.
Yeah, you can still see the lake though, so I think I'm still very interested.
Thank you.
Okay, and I got the information who to follow up with Corp Council and the Ducks. We will put this on next month's agenda,
Thank you.
sale of the property. Moving along, project status report. Kyle, you got anything?
Mr. Chair, the projects should have been updated on here by the respective departments. Any questions at all?
No, we still don't have the cap out there, do we? I'll leave that for question for Bill. Never mind.
Maybe I'll just ask this question now. I was wondering about the paving at the Midway, the fairgrounds there. Is this something we can talk about now or?
Well, it is on the report, under maintenance, so
Mhm.
we'll wait till we'll give Bill his turn at it.
Sure, okay, thank you.
Treasurer's report, Jenny.
We finally made it. We're at towards the end of this year's foreclosure. The list I sent, we ended up with 10 properties. Since then, if you notice, there's one that says a reversal, owners came in, showed us some processes that they did, and Jeff is in the process of reversing that particular order back to them. We found it that they did pay, it just went to the wrong spot on all paid versus our treasurer's area. So we did find it, so that will go back. Talking with Jeff, and Jeff said he had meetings today. He wasn't sure he'd be here. My proposal to you out of these process, we have 2 properties that I've highlighted. The first one, 2-468, and the 126-30-15. The 2468 is just, as you notice on the maps, it's just the lake, it's underwater. Selling that, it's kind of silly. We'll just keep it. The rest of the lake does not have any ownership anywhere else except for Friendship Lake or the county. So we're asking not to put that in as a sale option. The last one, going through the history, it was a little section that they all did their certified surveys and actually left this one piece to be their easement road access to all the 3 or 4 there. And so we checked into it, and if you're okay with that, authorize us to, what we would do is give that to the 3 adjoining owners that have that piece that was supposed to be for their access to their properties. We already talked to the assessor. He would be able to take their interest and include it in to their tax bills appropriately. And the rest, I took the totals of what we have outstanding, gently rounded a couple of them up because I didn't really want to put 0.75 cents on or 76 cents on it. And if you're okay with those numbers, could utilize those numbers unless you say something differently for our minimum bids on them.
Putting that in a motion, Rocky,
I'll make a motion to accept the minimum bids that Janny put on the.
and I'll second that. Okay, any discussion? Josh?
Mr. Chair, question is for Janie. Janie, can you tell us a little more about parcels number, it's like 10-369? And then also 008-00688, please.
Okay, both parcels, the folks are deceased as to why the taxes have not been paid. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Have you had any luck getting a hold of any of the family at all, or any responses for any?
We
from any-
had the one, for the parcel 10-369, the people, their family members have come forward and they chose not to
Mhm.
pay the taxes. The other one, evidently a daughter had put it up for sale through a realtor. We ended up contacting the realtor to find out what was going on because we heard through the grapevine, found it out on the website. And we had been talking with her for 4 months, telling her she needed to get the taxes paid if she wanted to do that, and nothing ever happened. So we had been in contact with her even 3 days prior.
Mhm. Did you make her aware of any payment arrangements or anything like that that she could?
She, ever since we found out about her in March, yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
right. Thank
I
you for that.
promise you.
right. Thank you for that, Janie. Appreciate it.
Okay, we have, Bill?
Just a question, where is the location of, the 4.41 acre, 1630 Church Street? Where is that, Janie?
That's right in Arkdale, by the Ball Diamond Church. You'd go down that road. It's just on the
Right.
backside.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Now the question I have, which you brought up about signing that one property over to them, will we put that on the agenda for next month? When we open the bids, or can we do that this month?
I'm asking for that today,
Okay,
for your authorization. If you're fine with that, then he would proceed with the documentation to transfer
okay,
that.
so we'll need a separate motion after we
Yes.
do this other one for minimum bid.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to set the minimum bids and the bid opening date. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we need a motion on the floor to,
When were these bids submitted? Were these already submitted for all these?
The bids?
Yeah,
No, these are our recommendations. So
Right.
now we're gonna put them out next week
okay, thanks
for
for
the minimum
clarifying that.
bids for, I assume we're doing this still the next meeting for the bid openings? Is that what?
that's
Okay.
works for me. Next meeting,
Okay.
we'll do the bid openings. You'll get them posted and in the paper
Yep, as of next week. If you,
and,
Okay, thanks for
Yeah.
clarifying that, Janie. Appreciate it.
okay, we need a motion to sign that piece of property over to the adjoining landowners. Is that the,
for their access, yes.
okay? Anybody? Rocky made the motion. Anybody second? Second by Mike. Mike and Bill. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let's go into the maintenance department report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully, everybody had a chance to read my report. I did hear a question come up about the cap on the wall.
Yes,
Cap is not poured yet. The excavator was here. They did backfill that wall, packed it in good. I don't know why they're not here pouring the cap, except I'm sure it's a small thing for them. We haven't paid them a dime yet, so you'd think that they'd want to get it done so we can actually pay them for some of the work they've done out there, but I did make a couple calls there again prior to the meeting and did not get a response back yet today. I will keep you informed though. I'm working at it.
okay. Anything else you want to talk about, Bill?
I heard a question about the paving at the fairgrounds. What would you like to know, Josh?
wondering how that was going, if there's, what the progress was with that, Bill?
They're gonna start the paving, Josh, as soon as the fair is over. We did not want to pave it prior to the fair this year because they don't really want the vehicle traffic from all the rides and amusements and things on the brand new pavement. They said they're feared that it'll damage the new pavement. And then there's a lot of excavating that's gonna get done out there. So we're gonna, just in order to create proper drainage from that. And that was the other part of the puzzle here, was not just getting it repaved, but making sure that once we get it
Drainage,
repaved,
sure.
it doesn't turn into a swimming pool again.
Yeah, they're gonna tile anything? Is that-
It doesn't need to be tiled. It's the sands, it's real sandy out there. We did some pits out there, test pits, and the ground is good for drainage.
Sure.
So we just gotta get graded properly, and once they grade it, they have to seed it, so we didn't want them also parking the campers and everything on the newly seeded area, so. They're gonna start right after the fair is done, and I think that one has a completion date of October 31st of this year.
Okay.
So,
All right.
then it will be done.
Sounds good. Thank you for that, Bill.
You're very welcome. Anybody else?
No more questions for Bill. We'll move on to Parks Department.
Good afternoon and happy August. I guess some of the highlights here in our report were both parks right now are missing an assistant manager, and then that and some of the kids are starting to check out to go back to school and stuff, so Darren can add a little bit on his part, but by the end of the week, Castle Rock will probably be operating at about half staff, so it makes the remaining staff, have to scurry to keep things up to par. The other highlight of the storms we have from July 28th. No major damage, a few, limbs and twigs, small trees, but there's no property damage or injury to anybody. And it did short out our blower motor on our air conditioner in the office, so that's all I have to add. Darren, do you want to say anything?
I don't myself have much else. I do have a slight bit more on the expansion project. I did get word, and I was actually on the phone right now, just relaying messages back and forth to the plumber to have the final connections made to the building by the end of the week, hopefully. And Earth will be there to potentially have the septic system online. So we may be able to have that building before the Labor Day holiday weekend. And word was up until the rain today that they were going to come and probably pave on Thursday. But I'm gonna guess that if pavers had a rain day, they're probably put off a couple days. So depends on how their crews are, where they're at. So just a additional update that's happened rapidly in the last few days. So.
I have one question for you, Darren. That Meteor project up there where they're putting them solar fields in, is there any off-road trails, ATV trails that'll be affected by that? Or are those just all town roads up there?
Currently, right now, there's actually a closure because that company is in there doing some work. There's about 11 and a half miles of the actual trails that are closed so they can do their soil testing and some other stuff in there. And eventually, I'm going to assume they are stating that they want to work with us and be able to still ensure some trail usage. The talk is with all the others is not so much the summertime as yet to still try to have something that works for the snowmobile program to get to and from and through more so than the ATV use. That was the trouble that we did run into slightly up in not Adams County, but in the Wood County south end where they did that solar project. Once they get that in, they don't want them actually in them sections, and they kind of got to go around. But currently, right now, the last word that I had is, they're beginning their testing processes, and construction's at least a year out, and they are still willing to let us utilize until anything of that does come. So.
Okay, we just don't know how many trails we're gonna lose in the end.
Right. Correct.
Right. Josh?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. My question is for Doug. Doug, can you tell us which ATV, UTV clubs were affected, closed in the storm that happened on 7/28, please?
Josh, I'm gonna refer that to Darren.
Actually, the two major trails that were affected by the storm was what's referred to as the Jefferson Trail, the mile section between 18th Avenue and County Highway Z, just north of Peatmo or just east of Peatmo Park.
Mhm.
There was 3 ginormous trees that fell took out a bunch of the corn in the fields and took out part of the trail. ATV Club was able to get that open and moved out of the way. And then there was a couple of smaller trees that were just on some of the northern trails. The Monroe Prairie ATV Club is the one that maintains those off-road, off-highway routes, the actual trails.
See, thank you for that. Was there any assistance or relief provided to these clubs? Or will there be to assist with the removal and to reopen the trails?
No, as I've explained with the snowmobile program, it's the same difference. It's part of their general maintenance unless it is a major storm and declared a storm by the state and or FEMA. There's no additional funds. They do make the programs that operate these two things do make funds available when there is major issues throughout or around the whole state, much as with the snowmobile stuff last fall. We are anticipating that a small supplement will be coming to make all those clubs whole of any money over and above their normal maintenance that they did spend.
Yes, I see. Appreciate that, Darren. And I seen that we did have the snowmobile clubs that were affected in 22 storm damage. And there's been paperwork submitted to the DNR. Can you tell us which clubs will be submitting that paperwork to the DNR, please?
The clubs themselves don't. That's what part of my job is to manage that program and make sure that information is getting where it's supposed to be. Out of the 11 clubs, there was 7 of them that submitted paperwork to me that had additional work for the storm damage from December.
Okay, were the Grand Marsh Pathfinders? Can you tell us where they among? Because I know.
Yes, they were.
Okay. Thank you for that, Darren. Do you have any idea of what kind of funds that they'll be receiving from this?
Not without consulting all the paperwork. I believe we were around $62,000 is what comes into the program. I submitted for $67,000 worth of funds in to return. So just over $3,800 extra over and above the normal $300 per mile should be coming our way or to the clubs that are basically already paid. It's just putting the money back in the coffers is what on our end.
Okay, so you figure that by the mile on the trail system that each club has? Is that how you
Correct.
divvy up the funds? Okay. All right, thank you for that, Darren. When can they expect the funds and relief for that from last December?
The clubs have all been paid for what they submitted to us. We're
Okay.
just waiting for the funds to come back into the county program, the county coffers,
I see.
into our bank account, basically.
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Darren.
Okay, moving along, we have a resolution petitioning the Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid. Who wants to start with that? That yours? Hit the center button, little green. Where it says push.
There we go. I guess that would be Chairman, Mr. Chairman. I'm Rob Brown. I'm the airport manager and I took over here this past beginning of the year and all the prior projects have been done at the airport have been completed under the last resolution to do airport improvements. So we need to update the resolution to continue forward with any airport improvements through the Bureau of Aeronautics and DOT FAA funding. So everything's expired and this is kind of the next step to go forward with improvement stuff at the airport or projects we have currently under. So
Any questions for?
it's a
Rob?
normal process. I believe it's kind of like the 6-year plan. It's updated every 6 years and the next couple projects we have slated for the airport would be the taxiway improvement to redo the taxiways, which they've been kind of saving the money for, as I understand of our, we get so much every year and the money's been set aside. And the next major project after that would be the airport master plan. The Bureau of Aeronautics requires that everybody have a current master plan to move forward with projects from the state and FAA. So it'll be kind of a fairly expensive project, but as well as a lengthy project because it's funded incrementally over time probably take 2 to 3 years to complete. So the way I understand it, the project for the taxiway improvement, everything was pretty much put in place. It's ready to move forward with it. We'll just have to update everything and then allocate the engineers to move forward with, you know, preparing it and getting the bids out and stuff to make it happen.
Josh?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thanks again for being here to help us with our questions, Rob.
Sure.
So I have a question. What are some of the examples of assurances or documents required by federal or state government, as well as rules, regulations relating to the airport development projects? And have there been any changes to these recently?
Sounds like a pretty tall question, or a lot of different.
Maybe I'll break it up for you a little bit. That I didn't mean to. But so I'm just looking to see if, can you give us some examples of these documents or assurances that are required by the federal or state government
Well,
that they mentioned in this?
the way I understand it, like I said, this is fairly new to me too. This would be my first time, but we're basically with this petition authorizing the Bureau of Aeronautics to manage our state and federal funding for any improvements we do at the airport. The documentation, I think we'll have to assign assurances that saying that we'll pay our percentage of the improvement, which typically, from what I've heard, is 5 to 10% of the project.
Okay.
You know, but I can't say that for sure. The last airport manager told me he never saw anything go over 7%. So this is just like the initial process to get the state involved and you know, starting to manage our programs. We do have one, I guess, still standing project, and that's the land acquisition there at the north or southeast corner of the airfield, with buying some trailers and stuff at the mobile home park there. So they're hoping to complete that this year, but that's exhausted some of our funds and timing. You know, it's been drug out for, I guess, quite a long time, but we're hoping to get that completed like this year. But I mean, everything this process has been done before, and I don't think there's a whole lot of new stuff to it. I'm just not real familiar with, you know, exactly the paperwork. This is our first step in the paperwork, and then it's going to go forward to the state. And then I think they'll draft up there is an actual packet you fill out, and then there's a portion they fill out for our assurances, you know. But, you know, it's kind of open-ended right now because we don't have the exact cost of our projects until we move forward with like the master plan and you know, I know that they said they typically cost, you know, a couple $100,000 over a period of time. So, and they say it could take 2 to 3 years, followed by the airport layout plan, which is another piece of it. So,
Are these variable, the 5 to 10% variable? Is that part of it that you?
Yeah, we will have to pay our portion of it. The county will, whatever, you know, it's just determined by the cost. And I think we'll know that prior to going into the project. They'll say it's going to cost X amount of dollars, and this is our, you know, percentage that we have to pay.
The land acquisition that he referred to, that's something that's been passed already. I don't remember, was that last fall we did that? Maybe Rocky remembers better than I do.
I remember that.
And the only thing that I know this is a formality, the only thing that always, when it says 5%, you know, 5% of $1 million ain't bad, but if it's 5% of 50 million, that's quite a chunk.
Well, I don't think we'll have a $50 million project, but everything, the way I understand, it's going to be in the $200,000 to $300,000 range for the taxiway improvement, as well as the airport master plan. And then, you know, we basically have to have the master plan. You can't get anything approved through state or federal funding until you have an airport master plan. So that's kind of our next step to get us up to speed where we can do other projects. And the way I understand, that's why we put down way more in the resolution that we're going to do right now. But if you don't have it in the resolution or the petition, you can't ask for it or the improvement down the road. So, the way I understand this is updated like every 6 years, this process, and it hasn't been done for a couple of years because of COVID and everything. Things have kind of slowed down. They didn't have meetings and stuff, and not a lot of work has been done. And
Unfortunate, yeah. So you're not aware of any changes, or you don't know if there's been any changes to these?
no, sir.
Okay.
The packet look-
Nothing to do with COVID. They didn't change any of this over the COVID restrictions and all that they had going on, and
No, sir. The packet, the last time a petition was done was 2014. And the petition packet looks pretty much identical to, or the same. It's approved by the Bureau of Department of Transportation, Bureau of Aeronautics chief or whatever approves it. And
Mhm.
that's our contract with them, the way I understand it.
okay. All right. Well, thank you for that, Rob. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
Bill Wimmer, Representative or Supervisor District 4. Glad you're here today. I drive by the airport. I don't know much about it. But one question I do have is when usually you're seeking funds, you usually have a master plan in place so that people that are gonna be responsible for this resolution would be looking at master plan and cost. Now, we know that costs vary, inflation, things get more expensive, but still, generally, I like to see something, and I know a banker likes to see something on paper as part of a master plan and a cost analysis. And do you have any of that?
Well, we don't even have a master plan for the airport yet.
Well, that's what I mean.
The
Could you be getting a price for a master plan, do the master plan, and then maybe come to the board for the resolution seeking the funding? In other words, you're asking us who pay 5% matching, we've got to have some money available if you come before us. And I think it makes a big difference on at least how I feel about it. I mean, if I go in a banker and say, well, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that, and he's gonna say, well, what's your collateral? How much is it gonna cost? And then another question I have is, how do you receive funds? People that use the airport pay accordingly, or?
The funding comes from the State Bureau of Aeronautics as well as the FAA, federal funding. So we're a small general aviation airport, and the way I understand it, they told me we're allocated like $150,000 a year right now during this block grant funding cycle that we're in. The way I understand it, we can't do a master plan or anything until we do the resolution to allow the Bureau of Aeronautics to handle our funding and our management of improvements at the airport. So right now, they don't have any authorization to do anything because it's expired. Way I understand it. So to even get a master plan, we have to at least approve the resolution to allow the state to act on our behalf and manage the federal and state funding to do our projects. Once we do a project, it'll be contracted and estimated, then we'll know our portion of the cost. But right now, we just have vague improvements, conduct, snow removal equipment, acquire snow removal equipment, mowing equipment, conduct a master plan airport layout, reconstruct taxi lanes, construct initial parallel taxiway, extend runway. These are all just a wish list type of stuff that we would like to do, but we have to get the resolution passed for the state or the Bureau of Aeronautics to move forward and manage and represent us for these improvements.
And Rob, what's the time frame on submitting this?
Well, the sooner we get it submitted, the sooner we can start. Right now, we're just sitting there. The state won't do anything until this resolution is approved and passed and sent to them.
Then you don't have any idea what a master plan would cost at
Well,
this time.
I said, they told me $200,000 to $300,000 right now. It just depends, and they said it would probably be a 2 to 3 year process based on the funding. It'd be incrementally done. based on our funding.
I'd like to step in there a little bit. The object of the resolution is to petition for I'll read it to you. To petition the Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid. So we're petitioning them to aid our airport. That's what it reads.
But we don't know how much we're asking for.
Well, we're asking them to manage it. The Secretary of Transportation will manage the airport. So
Except for
I guess for
5%.
lack of wording, I'm not sure I know how to explain this, but we're not petitioning to spend our money. We're
5% you
petitioning
are.
to have them manage it, and we pay a small part of it. We pay 5%, they pay 95%.
Right. So like you were saying, if it's,
If we don't pass this, then who's gonna manage the airport?
Or no more improvements to be done.
Kyle?
Mr. Chair, because the question about where the money is coming from keeps coming up, I kind of want to explain how I've seen everything come across financially with the state. So they end up doing these projects. So like the land acquisition project, they're handling all of that.
Mhm.
They're taking care of that. They're paying the money out for it. They turn around, then they'll invoice the county for our like 5% share. So the county's not actually out fronting the money for these projects waiting to get reimbursed. The state's out there doing all of that for us, and then we end up getting reimbursed later on. And then there is a small portion of county tax levy that funds the airport. It's about $32,000. And then they have fuel sales as well.
what were the sales,
Fuel sales.
fuel sales?
Mr. Chair. So in addition to that, to address Supervisor Wimmer's concern is the commitment for 5%. It's unknown right now. This is just a first step to get those funds available to us. When I say funds, projects. And then when a project has been identified, one of them being the master plan as a project, that comes forward again to commit our 5%. And that'll be in a fiscal note for you guys to approve, knowing what the dollar amount match is for that particular project. Each project is brought forward. This just gets us in the mix or a pool to be considered for funding in the future. That's what this first step is. It does not really commit a dollar amount. It commits a commitment of a 5% match. Those projects are then approved at a later date, individually, like the land acquisition that came forward and was voted on. Because we knew at that point what the dollar amount is. Does
So
that
it
help?
doesn't come in a lump sum. It comes in individually per project or per part of the master plan.
Mr. Chair? So the
Right.
so the master plan identifies those projects. That's always the first step, is have this master plan. And then now you have these projects. Now the dollar amounts will change because over time, you know, CPI and all of that, these project costs could go up or down depending. But at least the master plan identifies the projects. And again, the master plan is one of the first projects that has to happen before you can identify these other projects. So that's first step, is committing the 5% unknown. It's just a commitment of a commitment. Then the projects get identified through the master plan, which is project number 1. Then future projects, all of that comes forward. There's always approvals to know what the dollar match is. We know it's 5, could be higher depending on what the requirement is. But you'll have authority then to approve those projects.
Reiterate on something that Rob said. We're just updating a resolution that's been in effect for years. Mike?
Once this, and if it's approved, this resolution, and it goes to the state, how quickly do you have any idea how quickly they react to receiving the resolution? I guess I'm just wondering if, once they receive it, then how long does that take them to get back to the county? And will the money that would be required, the 5% or whatever that percentage turns out to be, is that in this year's budget, or is that just planned for the future to come out of some other county account?
I'll let Rob answer that.
The way I understand it, like, once we get the petition done, then they will, or the resolution approved, they will start working on the projects. And like they told me, the taxiway project, if we get the resolution approved, because it was already kind of approved through the last resolution, but it expired, so they can't do any more work on it. But they said they could, if we, once this is approved, like the taxiway project that was previously approved, they could start getting the engineering firms to sign contracts out for bid, and that could happen next summer, they said. And it sounds like they've already have funding set aside that, you know, there's a financial director at the Bureau of Aeronautics, and he manages all these funds for all the airports and stuff. And he's told me, you know, we will have the funds available for this, and it's probably going to be like $200,000 at least to do the taxiway improvement. So the master plan will be the same way. They'll put it out. They put it out for bids to an engineering firm. We decide what firm we want to have do the master plan, and we'll work with them over a period of time. And my understanding, like I say, it's going to take 2 to 3 years to do the master plan. So.
And if I understand right from Kyle, we do have funding set aside for the county, right, for the airport fund.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. We have a capital fund and we have an operating fund for the airport. Right now, the capital fund has just under $30,000 in it. Doesn't seem like much, but 5% matches are very minimal.
Yep. Rocky,
I move to approve the resolution.
do I hear a second? Motion has been made by Rocky, seconded. We'll take a question from Josh, one more.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to reiterate, clarify for whoever, keep hearing this 5% county responsibility. No, this is 5 to 10%. Is that right? Just to clarify?
But any project comes back to the committee before it's approved. We don't just
Right.
automatically give them a blank check.
Right, but there's a 5 to 10% variable. I just want to clarify that, right?
Yeah, I can clarify. From what I understand, it depends, like FA funds might be 5%, and then state funds could be 10%. And they could be combined if they each put a portion in, so, you know, it could be 7% if they, but it just depends where the funds come from, depends on the match. But the worst case would be 10%. The normal case is 5%.
Thank you for that. I'd just like to see a better idea of where we're going to get these funds from, to be honest with everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Bill, one more?
I just wanted to know, Kyle, you said operating costs. You gave two figures. What was the operating cost?
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was talking about the two different funds that the airport has.
Yes.
So they have their operating fund, which is just general operations. That's for paying for like day-to-day maintenance, paying for the airport manager contract, our groundskeeper, wages and benefits. And then fuel purchases and fuel sales. So that's their operating fund. Then they have their capital fund, which is for any capital improvements.
I'm sorry, what was budgeted as operating?
Yep. Let me. We budgeted $194,000 for the airport, but of that, $111,000 was transfer from the general fund So really it was about $80,000 is roughly what we typically budget. Because we just switched them over to their own separate fund from the general fund, and the taxes levied in prior years had to go along with them.
Just one more question, Kyle, while I have you there. So this 5 to 10%, where will that get paid from?
Mr. Chair? Yeah, that'll get paid out of the capital fund.
Which is 30,000.
Correct.
Will that cover it? We don't know, right?
Yeah, it'll be about 600,000 that it would end up covering, but we're continuously adding to that capital fund every year as part of the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Josh?
One more question, Mr. Chair. So Kyle, you mentioned you're increasing the tax levy for this project, is that right?
No. Yeah. Must have.
Thank you, Kyle.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye, Pozdolski.
Motion carries 3-2, Wimmer and Bzalski against. Items for next agenda, we'll have that, thing on here for Easton Pond there. Forget his name again. Terrible one name, Jeremiah. Anybody have anything else for the agenda? Bid openings will be on there, yep. And our next meeting will be October 9th. Nope. Let's back up a month. Let's try September 11th. Josh?
Mr. Chair, I was just wondering, I didn't notice the Midway advertised in the brochure, advertising for the fairgrounds this year. That's gonna be happening, right, with the Midway?
Yeah.
I just was wondering why it's not on the brochure, but if any,
Spectrum, what's their officially called? Spectrum Entertainment will be providing the rides in the Midway and everything.
okay, I just didn't, it wasn't clear on the brochure there for the fair, but maybe I wasn't, but thank you.
If anybody has anything else? I declare the meeting adjourned.